All right, guys, the patrons have spoken. The Chicago Bears are on the clock. Scott, let's start with you. 12-team Superflex PPR 1.75 for the tight end, start 10. Let's start with a signal caller here. Caleb Williams and Hollywood, or Dak Prescott and Garrett Wilson? Go ahead, man.
Well, I'm partial to Caleb Williams. He sported a beard very similar to mine this offseason. But I'm going to go the Dak Prescott, Garrett Wilson side here pretty easy. You're getting a significant receiver upgrade / definite value upgrade with Garrett Wilson from Hollywood. And listen, if you are going to talk about selling QBs when they don't have insane upside and you're trying to tier off of them, this is kind of that deal that you'd be looking for Caleb if he has a CJ Stroud type rookie year. You're going, wait a second, he's quarterback 4, quarterback 5, but he's probably more like quarterback 7, 8, 9. I don't want to pay quarterback 4 prices for him. And you're getting Dak Prescott back, who is a fine tier down. There's some risk with him, but I'll just ask, if Dak Prescott signed with the Cowboys for 4 years tomorrow, people go, oh, there's not really any risk, right? It's gone. That's all it is. You know he's going to go somewhere. You know he's going to throw it a lot. He's going to be fine. I'm not worried about Dak. Give me the Dak and Garrett Wilson side. This is actually a really nice deal if you can get this type of value for Caleb. I have not seen it.
Shane, are you going the Dak and Garrett Wilson side or Caleb and Hollywood?
I guess you have to almost go Dak and Garrett Wilson, but I don't want to, because what has Garrett Wilson done to show me that he's going to ever be a wide receiver 1 in the NFL in fantasy? He hasn't. I mean, he ran a lot of routes last year and got a lot of targets, so that was good. But I still have to go that side because it's probably a better chance of him actually turning into a wide receiver 1 than Hollywood being of any use to me in fantasy. Like Scott said, the upside's really not there for Caleb. Now, that's not to say he can't be a QB1, but he's not going to run enough to be probably a top 5 QB based off what we saw in college. Like it's not what he does. And that you need that rushing ability to be an elite quarterback, unless you're going to throw for 40 to 45 touchdowns. So yes, I'll exclude Patrick Mahomes from the conversation, who also still runs a little bit. So just because of that, yeah, I'll go with Dak and Garrett Wilson, even though I trashed Garrett Wilson for no reason.
Scott, let's move to the running backs, since Shane was talking about Caleb Williams and running or lack thereof. DeAndre Swift, how you feeling about him? Is he a nice kind of fit for a lot of your builds, the way you like to build? The fact that you know you're getting guaranteed touches, you're going to get some catches and whatnot. Go ahead.
Yeah, love DeAndre Swift. I don't understand the hate that he's gotten. I think he's one of those players that's just kind of been a victim of overcorrection. We thought he was supposed to be the next Christian McCaffrey, and then he's not. But I mean, last year he was better efficiency-wise on a per-touch basis than a lot of running backs were valuing higher. You know, guys like Kenneth Walker, he's better than Jonathan Taylor. He was even better than guys like Derrick Henry, Saquon Barkley, David Montgomery. Now, again, these are on a per-touch basis, but I think Swift's value has been now relegated to a point where the debate is not DeAndre Swift versus Jonathan Taylor or Saquon Barkley anymore. It's DeAndre Swift or, I don't know, an old Joe Mixon, DeAndre Swift and Alvin Kamara. Like, he's in the range of he's probably done for on the same pace that those guys are. And historically, he's just better than those guys, at least through the air. So I'm willing to still bet on him. And I think it's exactly what you said, Clay. He fits a build where if you go, hey, I'm looking for a top 18 running back, but I'm not shooting for top 6 because I don't want to pay that price. I think there's some spike weeks still with DeAndre Swift. He's a great receiver. We'll talk a little bit about the competition he has, but it's really just 2 Jags, and neither of them have the full skill set that he does. So I'm still in on Swift, but that's because he's like a top 30 running back now instead of top 10.
Shane, with some of your teams, are you okay with DeAndre Swift being your RB1?
I guess. There's a bunch of rosters where I have a DeAndre Swift, a Jaylen Warren, Devin Singletary. Like, I got a bunch of dudes like that. Clearly, I've committed to it. So DeAndre Swift is my running back 1. Probably isn't bad. You could do much worse when you build your roster that way. I don't love it, but, you know, you've committed to that ugliness at the running back position. He's the prettiest ugly chick, I guess, on that roster. So, yeah, sure.
Does Swift have the juice to be able to tier up to a Brees if you want to? Doesn't have it?
Well, no, and the reason is because he has graduated from he has any dynasty value. It is literally, is he a starter? Is he a project to be on a team where he'll score points? Okay, Sure, he's RB 24. He's RB 30. Like, he's exactly the same as some of those other guys that we mentioned. But the realization is, Shane, it could go away at any point. He could get benched. He could get injured. He may never start another game after this year. But it doesn't matter because that's how we value 90% of the running backs. Like, if I tell you Isaiah Pacheco and Rashad White are just way better than DeAndre Swift, sure, I would take them 1 for 1, but I'm not betting on them any longer than I am on him. So there's just no difference. Meaning, once you have him on your roster, what does he add to a deal where you're trying to get Breece Hall? Like, they're like, sure, I'll take him as a throw-in, and you're going, wait a second. I have to give up 2 firsts and DeAndre Swift to get Bijan. Like, I might as well try to patchwork this together and keep the picks. Like, you immediately go to there because you're just getting no credit for the DeAndre Swift part of the trade.
Shane, let's move to the wide receivers. So it is there's only so many targets to go around. For Caleb to throw, you got Keenan Allen, you have Rome Odunze, and you got DJ Moore. Talk to me. You can start with whatever wide receiver you want. Who do you like the most out of those three, value-wise?
Rome Odunze is the only one I really, truly want. If Keenan Allen is cheap, sure, I can get him for a second. I'm willing to take the risk that he alphas DJ Moore, but I'm completely perplexed. I'm not paying up for DJ Moore or Keenan Allen because I have no idea who's going to be the one there. Because these are both guys that have been target hogs their entire career. Now, it's possible, probably not probable, that they still go out there and both of them have 30%, 28% target shares. I don't know if that's feasible to think that that's going to happen. Maybe they're both hyper targeted. I don't know that that's going to happen. I think it's more likely they just cannibalize each other. I don't want to pay up for whatever the cost is for either of those players unless it's a second for Keenan. So I guess Keenan is really the one I want value wise. Obviously, Dynasty, long term, all that good stuff for Rome Odunze.
Scott, I'll switch it to you. What do you think first off about Rome Odunze? Is he going to have a little bit of Dynasty insulation, get a little bit of a pass? Because what's around him? He's got the rookie QB. Go ahead. Talk about Rome first and then your thoughts on the other guys.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like Shane already mentioned, he is surrounded by 2 historically elite receivers. And when I say they haven't always put up elite fantasy production, but their piece of the pie has always been the biggest at the table everywhere they've been. So that's not just going to go away. I mean, good players draw targets. So I would probably pencil in DJ Moore and Keenan Allen for close to 25%, which you can do the math. Whatever 25% is of the number you choose, double that. And now you're looking at what's available for everybody else. And something has to burst here, because DeAndre Swift historically is like a 10% of the offense target share running back. Like, he's a guy you target out of the backfield. So you have to probably pencil him in for 50, 60 targets as long as he's healthy. The tight end's going to get something just because the tight end is part of the offense. So you're probably looking at Rome Odunze going, man, if he were to get 100 targets, you're probably looking at an injury or just an offense where you're like, holy shit, the Bears are the greatest rookie quarterback offense we've ever seen.
Just slinging it.
I think he has insulation. And the funny thing is, if you have Odunze, the insulation isn't necessarily at the end of the year if he just has kind of a haphazard rookie season and people just assume eventually he'll get his work. It is if we get to mid-season and he's outperforming one of the other 2, all of a sudden he's now going to get credit because he's toppling like 2 kind of Hall of Fame pace receivers, and he's better than them when he's age 22 and they're veterans. And I think we're going to probably get to a point, if that happens, Shane, where Rome Odunze is like wide receiver 6 in Dynasty, and then he's overvalued because he's probably not that good. It's like, oh, he's better than Keenan Allen. Okay, that doesn't mean he's going to be the next Jamar Chase or CeeDee Lamb, but the value would be there. So that's why you invested in him. There's no reason to stray, even if it looks like he's not going to produce.
All right, so Scott, you touched on the fact that the tight end's going to have to get the ball at some point. So Cole Kmet, what are your thoughts on him? He's not a war difference maker, but give me your thoughts.
So clearly not. They brought over the coordinator from Seattle who played a bunch of tight ends. So you're immediately going, Cole Kmet, this is going to crush him. First move they do is sign Gerald Everett in free agency. Then they add Keenan Allen. Then they add Rome Odunze. So everyone was just burying Cole Kmet. He's dead. But the one skill he has is the ability to play. He's played more tight end snaps than anybody. So I think he's going to be on the field. Like, their tight end depth chart isn't super impressive. So I still think he's probably out there 75% of the time, 80% of the time. His targets per route run have been pretty pedestrian just because he's not getting the ball because he's out there so much at a rate. And you'd assume that's going to go down given they have better receivers now. But to be tight end 12, 15, it doesn't take much. If it's a good offense, I've warmed up to why not have Cole Kmet on some teams where maybe I have some correlation. Definitely if I have Caleb Williams, I'd rather have him than, I don't know, Dalton Schultz.
Pat Fryer.
if I have Caleb and I'm already kind of buying into the Bears offense, give me Kmet over Freiermuth, Schultz, right there with Goddard. I mean, like, they're no different when you're in that range. You know the formats to get him in. He's not a dynasty buy. He's not a dynasty. You know why he's not a dynasty sell? Because no one cares or wants him. So he either has a place or he doesn't. But I don't think he's just completely washed. And, you know, I'm taking Ben Sinnott over him. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really matter in that range. So get him in a couple spots and that's it.
He's going to be absolutely useless. Absolutely useless. Scott's brought it up 1,000 times, right? Part of the allure for Cole Kmet was that he ran every route. He played the most snaps at tight end over like the last 2 years or something ridiculous. The dude sucks. He's not good. Maybe real football, not fantasy football, though.
All right, so let us know your thoughts on the Bears and share any trades you have with their positional players. Let's continue this conversation with our patrons in the Discord.